Thanks for tuning in to another episode of PSL on the Mic, the City of Port St. Lucie's official podcast. So we have a new police chief in town, and his name is Leo Niemczyk. And Chief Niemczyk was sworn in last month, I believe, and we wanted to give him an opportunity to come in here and share his vision for the Port St. Lucie Police Department in the upcoming years. So thanks for joining us, Chief.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. We're excited about it. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been with the department, and how you got to Port St. Lucie.
Well, I was a New York City police officer. I had about 7 years in, and my whole life I always loved Florida. Mm-hmm. I never enjoyed the climate in New York.
Did you have family and friends here?
Not really, no.
Oh, you just liked it. Okay, you visited from visiting and stuff?
Well, I'll get to that. So it's a little complicated. But,
okay.
I always loved Florida, always kind of dreamt about living here. Mm-hmm. And my wife shared that dream. We didn't care for the wintertime, me especially. I'm a summertime kid. I love the warm weather. I like, running around with T-shirts and being comfortable and, enjoying the outdoors. And, the sky's gray up there a good part of the year, and it's cold. And I always kind of felt like trapped inside the house. And then you have to bundle up and get out and go to work. And, and working in New York City as a police officer, you have to get out of the car. I was wearing 2-3 pairs of long johns underneath the uniform. It's
Bet you don't miss that.
The cold, painful ears and the chilled nights and, then those wind chills. And, I'm not a cold weather guy. And
I don't think people realize how cold it is in Manhattan. With the buildings, people think it shades it, but that wind comes through there.
It's cruel. It really is a tough town.
Yeah.
And the climate has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
For sure. My parents, my father's an avid golfer. And they had bought a place in PGA when it was built. And they weren't living here. It was, for coming down and playing golf, especially during the winter.
Yeah.
So, my wife and I would shoot down and take, a week's vacation and spend, in January, in Florida and get away from the element. And I just really loved the city. I just thought it would be some kind of crazy dream to be able to live here full time, because the culture and the way I looked at it in New York, you get that job, it was so hard to get that job in New York, and I coveted it and I loved it and I loved the job. I thought I'd never leave it, and then we'd come down, spend a week here, a week there down in Port St. Lucie, and, I started interacting with some of the police officers here, looking at the work environment, evaluating the, things, and then started looking at the cost of housing versus the cost of housing in New York.
Yeah.
The housing market had boomed in New York prior to really taking off here. So the house that my wife and owned on Long Island nearly doubled in value.
Wow.
And, I recognized on a trip down here that we had enough equity just out of luck, on that house to basically relocate here cash almost.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
And once I made that, that I'll call it epiphany, it was, a moment of what? And then, we get back on the plane, we fly back into JFK Airport, and, the sky's gray, and,
oh no.
I know that when I get off that plane, it's going to be 20 below wind chill, and, dread it, and you do, and then you fight that traffic and, the congestion, and it's actually depressing. And then I find myself a night later back at work in New York City, and I'm working, in a housing project, and the conditions aren't good. And I just said, what am I doing here? I said, there is an option, there is an alternative. And, New York City police officers were paid very poorly at the time, too.
Yeah.
So it was just, it made a lot of sense. And I had that in the back of my mind. Our firstborn had come along. And my wife took maternity leave, and then she said, well, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. And you're like, oh, my God, well, how am I going to sustain this? Because we're a two-income family.
Yeah.
So 9/11 had come along, and I was working 7 days a week, probably, in the area of 12 to 15 hours a day.
So I can imagine.
I was actually, a byproduct of that is that I was making up her income, the lost income, and she stopped working.
Right, but look what you were doing.
Yeah, well, I'm not even going to go down that road, but
I mean the hours alone.
It was brutal.
To make up with that.
Yeah, it wasn't sustainable, right? But it was a temporary situation.
Yeah.
I always, thought that she'd be going back to work. Mm-hmm. This is the first year, we're home with baby. I got that.
Yeah,
it made sense, But then, about a year after 9/11, the overtime started drying up, and it started resetting, going back to normal. And I'm really thinking to myself, well, how am I going to float this thing and take care of the family in this situation. And, you know, my mind went back to the economics of moving to Florida. And I said, well, if it makes good financial sense, and I think it would make my family and myself very happy, and I think it would improve our quality of life, and now I'm raising my children in a better environment.
Yeah.
So people ask me, well, was it cost 9/11? No, it really wasn't. I loved the job, but at the end of the day, it was a much better quality of life and a real opportunity. And I felt very much like, you know, my ancestors must have felt like when, you know, they came to this country.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody, my whole family, all my relatives, everybody I knew was in New York. And to come down here when really I didn't know anybody.
Exactly.
It was pretty exciting, actually. And I remember, you know, my wife and the baby flew down here from New York, and I got in the car that morning at 5 a.m. and I started leaving New York, and I drove the Bell Parkway to the Verrazano Bridge, and I crossed the bridge, and I watched the city skyline in my rearview mirror, and, you know, I'll never forget that moment, and I was truly happy.
You were happy.
I was truly happy and excited, you know. It was a big adventure.
Yeah.
You know, and I drove myself and the dog, drove home, you know, down to Florida, and we made it in, you know, about a day and a half, and I've been here ever since.
And that was what year?
2002.
It was 2002?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And how did you get onto the department? Did you just come here? Did you interview before you came down?
Right.
Or?
So obviously I just didn't come down here blind without a plan.
Sure.
So we had made one trip down here, and I took the equivalency academy here in Indian River College at the time. It was community college.
Community
right?
college, IRCC. Yeah.
IRCC at the time. I only had to do a 2-week high liability, and then I had to take the state exam. And I was here a week in, and they had the recruitment day, and you know the recruiters from all the local agencies came in, and I probably had a job within a couple of days of that. So I ran into the recruiter here at the time, as well as one with the sheriff's office, and we started talking. And by the time I left, I had a conditional offer of employment from Port St. Lucie Police Department. My wife and I found a home out in Torino. You know, it was the only house on the street at the time.
I bet. 2002?
You know, which was really exciting, but it was a nice little place. It was twice the size of what we had in New York. You know, it was brand new, never lived in, and it was incredible. So, you know, okay, we went and we signed the contract, put a deposit on that house. We got back on a plane, flew to New York. We put our house on the market. I put in for my retirement. And about a month later, we were here.
End of story.
End of story.
All right. Well, it's I love that you went into the background because I didn't know all about this with you. So thank you very much for doing that. So let's just jump right in. What is your vision for the department coming up in the future?
Well, it's not like I inherited a fixer-upper. Really great police department, very successful, long history of low crime, doing a lot of things really well. So I'm not going to try and fix what isn't broken, you know. We run evidence-based policing model called the stratified model policing. I think we talk about it all the time. The community is familiar with it.
Yep.
You know, we're running version 1.0. When we instituted it, burglary was the biggest problem in the city by far. Maybe not so much anymore. You know, with a growing city with a much larger population, we have a lot of other things that we need to be looking at. So I'm partnering up with some professors from Radford University, the criminal justice department over there.
Okay.
They're the inventors of the stratified model and creators. You know, the model is really at like probably 9.0 or 10.0 at this point.
Okay.
So we just need to update
Yeah.
what we've been doing to make sure we're getting, you know, all the angles that we need to cover as far as our crime reduction. And then the other thing is continuing to put the best products that we can to the community in the street, and that has a lot to do with training and how we hire. We have to hire pretty rapidly right now to keep up with the growth of the department.
Yeah.
City Council wants us to get to 1.6 officers per 1,000. Right now, if we were fully staffed, we're at 1.3.
Okay.
You know, you say, okay, well, you know, 3/10 doesn't sound like a whole lot.
But it is,
when you
yeah.
have 14,000 residents moving into the city per year, you know, it is a lot. And that's
Yeah.
a lot of hires that you have to make. And the danger, I guess, in that is the experience level in the department decreases a little bit. You know, we're at a point where we have a lot of people eligible to retire. So we have people retiring at the top, our most experienced people.
Sure.
And we're bringing in a lot of new officers. And hiring's been a problem for most agencies. They just couldn't hire them, So I was talking to my team, and we're like, well, how do big police departments hire? I was hired with a class of 1,400, and I was sworn in on the floor of Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
And they run their own police academy. And, that was the concept that we came up with, is that if we hire people as cadets rather than wait till we find someone who graduated or we steal someone from another agency, steal is a strong word, but,
I get it. I get it.
We
I get
entice
it.
them to come work
Sure.
for us, right? Because we think we're the best.
Yeah.
And so we will go out into our own community and try to hire locals within the city of Port St. Lucie, people who know Port St. Lucie, who grew up here even, for that matter. So they're really familiar with the city. But they're 20-somethings, maybe early 30s. They're stuck in careers that they can't get out of.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to stop working and go through a police academy. But they always kind of wanted to be a cop. And we're finding these people, and we're hiring them as cadets. And the governor's grant is paying for the academy class.
Good.
And we're finding that we're able to hire in that situation where a lot of departments aren't successful.
Good. I have a recruitment question later on, but what you kind of touched on it already. What's going to be your biggest challenge in fulfilling the goals that you want to fulfill, while at the same time keeping us the safest large city in Florida? And what I think we're second in the country.
Second in the country,
yeah.
First in the state.
Yeah. So, is there an obstacle there?
Well, sure, it's the growth.
Yeah.
It's a growing city, and it's forcing the police department to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So we are growing. And it was kind of what I was alluding to as far as, training. So with having our own in the academy, we're training them the PSL way for the most part, getting them a lot of stuff in the academy that they wouldn't ordinarily get.
Sure.
They're learning about the stratified model in the police department, in the police academy. Mm-hmm. The biggest challenge is growing the police department, doing it strategically, doing it smart, and make sure that we're not losing the culture of superior customer service. It's very important. This community supports us.
Yeah.
And it's very, very important to me that we don't, disturb that trust and confidence. Mm-hmm. And the product that we're putting on the street, meaning our officers and the job that they're doing, can make or break us.
Right.
So on top of the hiring and the way we're hiring, we're enhancing our training to make sure that we spend more time in the classroom with the officers, make sure that they have the skill sets and the understanding of the latest and greatest problems that they're dealing with, and they know how to handle them. So we're building our training facility, which is going up right next door to the headquarters.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think it broke ground just a couple weeks ago. Well, we broke ground in August, but I know they started actually working on the area.
Well, they've been working. We were delayed a little bit because there were a lot of different utility lines under the site that needed to be relocated. Mm-hmm. And that was a challenge. And so you have to permit everything and, draw up plans and it's a lot of red tape that you have to go through. So that was finally accomplished. And then we had a challenge with the South Florida Water Management Plan. So we have to manage water retention, right?
Of course.
So
Yep.
that's always, a task.
Yeah, of course.
And
could be a lengthy one sometimes.
it could be a lengthy one, but, and rightfully so. It needs to be done correctly, and we have to protect the environment. So, our impact has to be mitigated, and we've gotten through that. So we're at the point where the site is basically cleared and the ground's being leveled right now, and we're hoping to have the slab down pretty soon.
How excited are you for this?
Oh, I'm very excited. Yeah, it's a great challenge.
And what's going to actually happen inside that building?
Well, the state of Florida, FDLE requires police officers to train 40 hours every 4 years.
Okay.
The PSL PD has always been committed to at least 40
At
per
least 40,
year.
yeah.
Okay. In my book, and I think the book of many, that's still not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal is to get us to 100 hours per year per officer. Well, to do that off-site, very challenging. So, it's a half-hour drive up to the range at the college. That's an hour each way for officers. You think about that. So we have an hour overlap between shifts that we identified, and that is an opportunity to do some micro trainings and have people do some, training while their, shift overlaps going on. If you have to drive a half hour away to do that training,
Takes away from it.
by the time you get there, you got to turn around and come back, right? But if the building's right next door and the facility's right next door, you can literally get over there in 2 minutes. And your trainers are over there waiting for you, and you can get a good 35 minutes in, once a week, rapidly.
Good.
So it just provides the ability, not only that, but the equipment that we're going to have over there is superior to anything that we can access around. You know, we're going to have our full firearms range. We're going to have our defensive tactics room, our simulation room, practice decision making. We're going to have simunitions room on the second floor that's configurable. I mean, our SWAT team is going to do a search warrant tonight. They can set up the actual layout of the house that they're going to be executing a search warrant and do a dry run through it.
Okay.
I mean, situations like that. So
All right.
that stuff matters. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Repetitions in practice make for a better product in reality. And, you know, that's the concept of why we're going for that building.
Okay, good. Let's talk a little bit about hiring. How many officers right now are civilian and sworn officers do we have?
We're allotted for 335 sworn.
Okay.
We've got 79 civilians.
Okay.
We have 72 part-time crossing guards and 125 volunteers.
Wow, that sounds like a lot.
It's a big department.
It is.
But it needs to be bigger.
It needs to be bigger. And what are you guys doing for that? I know we're doing heavy recruitment right now.
Well, I think I already talked quite a bit about how we're going about doing our hiring.
Yeah.
And it's going really well. We have a class of 25 graduating and being sworn in on the 17th
Yep.
this month. And then March 24th, we're going to hire, well, we're already in the progress of hiring, but the academy class starts for another 30.
Okay.
So we have
Is that about average for those classes? Is that what you kind of want? So it's like a
So
smaller.
when the academy sets up classes, they always try to fill their companies of 30.
Okay.
And, you know, the concept is that we're doing our own class.
Sure.
So we need to provide the 30, but that's okay because the number works for us. So my philosophy with hiring it is that each year we're going to project the needs of the department. So, you know, how many additional positions we're going to get, how many retirements we're going to be facing. And then, you know, there's always one or two unplanned attrition, you know. So, yeah, we're projecting needs each year and hire a class, and then we'll never be shorthanded.
Good. We have a District 5 now. And I'm sure that was created because of the growth in the city. How is everything going out there? Talk about why we created that. I'm sure it was growth, like I said, but.
Well, 100% it's growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you have more people, you have more calls for service, you know, have more incidents that occur, you need more police officers. So,
Right. And that's like the tradition area, kind of.
that
right?
is a tradition area, and it's by far bigger than the city of Stewart, if you want to think about it. So we have, you know,
Wow.
like a city of people over there within a city.
Exactly.
And, you know, they were kind of feeling like they were out there on their own island a little bit. And
Yeah.
look, we got to provide services, and we have to make them feel safe, and we have to keep them safe. It's not just how they feel, but it's also fact, right?
Exactly.
So we added 24 officers to the department over 5 years to start District 5,
Yep.
launch that. And it is, in fact, on full swing. A little secret out of the bag here is that we have these 25 graduating December. They're going to go into field training. They're going to graduate field training probably about April, which is our shift change.
Okay.
We do a shift pick every year, twice a year. Based on seniority. So the officers actually get to pick based on seniority where they're going to work within the city.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, you know, as a chief, you say, okay, well, what do you do with all these new officers, right? Well, you have to deploy them strategically, so it makes a lot of sense. Well, District 6 is going to be launched. And instead of
We're breaking news here, guys.
Instead
Wow.
of doing it over 5 years,
Yeah.
we're going to do it one shot. Boom. That's 24 officers to make 4 new zones in the city. So District 6 is going to be 2 zones, and it's going to be the north end of District 5.
Okay. So Northern Tradition area.
And that will that's going to encompass the new western region.
Okay.
So between 95 and Florida Turnpike will be central region. And then everything east is going to be the eastern region. So we'll be breaking into 3 regions, 2 districts in each regions. We're going to add a patrol zone to District 2 and District 3 on the southern side of
Yep.
Becker Road. With all the
Right.
development that's
Yeah.
gone out there, we need to have officers. We're going to have a hospital down there,
I know.
you know. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to have a real impact in April when we get these officers on the street. I think the whole community is going to notice a difference.
Oh, I can't wait. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. What are your proudest moments working for PSLPD?
You know, it's so hard. I've been asked that question a few times since I was sworn in as chief. I think the thing is that I dwell on the things I wish had gone better too often and don't celebrate the wins.
Yeah. I think we all do that.
Yeah. So when you say what are the proudest moments, there are probably a lot of them, to be honest with you, but they don't just jump out and come to mind. And I'm always looking forward, to the next achievement and accomplishment. And I'm
looking more for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't dwell on the successes. I'll say that the favorite, points of my career were working as a detective. I loved being a detective here. Really enjoyed that. Made a lot of good cases. I enjoyed being a detective sergeant a lot. And then for a little while, a couple of years ago, I got to be the CID commander again for a while, and I really enjoyed that. I like solving the crime and being a part of that. That's always fun. But I guess becoming the chief of this police department is probably the proudest moment by far, and being able to be sworn in front of my wife and kids and my family. That was really special.
Yeah, I would say it would be. What's your favorite part about police work? Why did you want to become a police officer?
Well, I'll be honest, the beginning of my life, I didn't. I had never envisioned it. I was always drawn to mechanics and mechanical items and things, and I wanted to, be a mechanic and restore vehicles and do that kind of stuff. So a lot of my early education was kind of directed at that.
Okay.
I was a Chevy mechanic. I worked for a couple different Chevrolet dealers in New York, and then in the early 90s, we hit a recession.
Yeah.
And there was no work coming in the doors, and you get paid by what you produce.
Sure.
And I started recognizing, wow, this is a tough career. I looked at guys who were maybe 40 years old at the time. That seemed old to me, right? But
yeah.
not as much.
Not now.
Right. But I looked at what had happened to their bodies after 20 years of being a mechanic in that climate up there, too, with, extreme colds and extreme heats. It was never really perfect, And their bodies started breaking down, so they started slowing down, producing less, making less money. So when the recession hit and there's no work coming in the doors, and I said, wow, we're planning to get married. We're buying a house. And I'm like, this is kind of a little unsettling. And I started thinking about, well, what's economy proof? And I said, police department, fire department.
Fire department, police department, yeah.
My mother's father had been a New York City fireman. And I said, those guys, they're going to get, paid regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
So I started taking civil service exams in New York, and that's how you went about getting hired. The police department contacted me. I started going through that process. It took a couple of years, but
oh wow,
they called, and I jumped on the job, and it was pretty obvious pretty quick that the job just came easy to me.
Yeah.
It was like a natural fit, and I recognized
that's always nice.
This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, good. It's like an epiphany.
It was.
Yeah.
Some would say maybe it's a calling. I think, the best cops would probably tell you that.
Yep.
They're doing it because it's what they were meant to do. So I really enjoyed the job. It came naturally to me. And if you ask me what my favorite part about it was just, if you go into it thinking that you're going to change the world as a police officer, you're pretty naive. But you recognize pretty quick that you can change the world for a single person at any given moment, And I always looked for that opportunity. And it's a tremendously gratifying feeling just being able to help somebody out through a difficult time. Because they're not calling us when things are good. They're calling us when usually
things are bad.
Things are bad. And when you can be there for somebody when something's bad and make a difference in their life, you go home feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah. What makes our department here in PSL, what makes this department the best in the state, in your opinion?
I'm going to go a little bit further than that, say we're the best in the country.
Okay.
And everybody knows that we have the best criminal justice system in the world. It may not be perfect, and it's not perfect, but it's the best there is in the world.
Yes, sir.
And I'll say this. I mean, I truly believe in professionalism, and I expect that of all of our officers, all of our employees. I worked for the New York City Police Department, and, I won't say brainwashed, but they had it in our heads, and they always told us we're the greatest police department in the world, we're the best, we have the best training, we're the best at what we do. And, once I graduated and made it to the street, I saw a lot of behavior that I didn't think was super professional,
Okay.
And it's a tough job,
Yeah.
and it wears down on you if you let it, and, you can be not at your best at times when you're dealing with people. But, I noticed that a lot of my coworkers didn't go about doing the job the way I did and the way, I felt it should be done.
Right.
So when I walked in the door at Port St. Lucie Police Department, I literally felt like I got hired by a Fortune 500 company as an executive, not as a police officer coming in at entry level.
That's a great analogy.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember standing in roll call. We call them briefing. Roll call in New York City. We call them briefings here. And literally there are rodents running around the building. You know, the thing was built in the late 1800s. Yeah. It's in really poor, dilapidated condition, and it was just the way it was. And you didn't question it. Everybody had tattered, torn uniforms. I remember having to wait in line to hopefully get a radio to
Hopefully.
have on patrol.
Oh my gosh.
Well, if you went out with a partner, one of the two of you had to have a radio, but not both. That was like a real score if you both got radios.
Wow.
And on a really good day, you both got a radio holder, so you could put it in your belt and not have to hold it in your hand at all the times.
Oh my gosh.
So that's just a glimpse at the working conditions. So when I walked in here and I walked up to purchasing, and there's a lady sitting there by herself, and she hands me a big box of equipment. And I'm like, looking over my left shoulder, looking over my right shoulder, waiting for somebody to come and
grab it from you. Yeah.
She goes, here you go. I'm like, this is mine? She's like, yeah. There's a laptop in this box. Wow. I'd never even seen a laptop in New York City. I was typing on an old mechanical typewriter, putting evidence, vouchering evidence, and here, I get handed a laptop and all my own equipment. I had my own radio and case.
Yay.
And I was
wow.
Wow, the building was in beautiful condition.
Yeah.
The working conditions were good. I hit the streets, and the officers were professional. And, that's when I knew I was doing the right thing, and I was in the right place, and I had made the right move. And, that is what separates us and what makes us the best police department is not just our success at reducing crime, but also on how we take care of our community and how we behave. Everything about us, we strive to be professionals. And, I think that's what makes the difference.
Yeah, and it shows in the community because, there's not a lot of cities, towns, residents that can say that they love their police department. And our residents love our police department. And that just makes everybody feel amazing.
Yeah, it's a lousy environment to work in when you step outside. I mean, when I started, in New York City, they said, listen, kid, they hate us and we hate them, and that's the way it is. And that's just no way to live. It's terrible for them. It's terrible for the morale. It's terrible for the officers. It's a lose-lose. And to step out of that into, something that somebody before me really worked really hard at and achieved, and take advantage of that was a gift.
That's great. Anything, before we get to our 10 questions, which I know you're not too excited about, but anything you want to add that we maybe missed that you wanted to share with the community?
I could probably talk all day, so I'm not going to do that. But I appreciate the support from this community. I know that I'm speaking for the police department when I say that we love this community and we care about it, and I want to make sure that I give them the best product day in, day out that I can, and that's my number one goal.
Yeah.
And just know that I support the officers, but I do hold them accountable when they make mistakes. And they understand that, and we're very clear about it. And that's it. We're going to grow, but we're going to grow intelligently, and we're going to provide excellent service, maintain low response times. And I'm just really excited to be here and grateful for this opportunity.
That's great. Well, from a family of police officers, from my great-grandfather to my cousins, thank you for your service. I know it's a difficult job, and then there's that certain person that, like you said, you kind of have a calling for it. And that's what I think is so great about you and our department. So thank you so much. And thanks for taking time out to do this. I know it's the holiday season and people are on vacations, but thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to get to the 10 questions.
Oh, boy.
They're easy. Just the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. What's your favorite food?
Oh, pizza. Oh, brainer.
New Jersey or New York? New York, what do you think's better?
Come on.
All right. I'm from Jersey, so I like Jersey pizza.
Forget about it.
What's your favorite movie?
That'd be Rocky. I think all-time
nice
favorite.
Pick.
I love movies.
Yeah.
I could probably recite a million lines from, hundreds of different movies. But, going back to my childhood, I think Rocky was probably the most impactful in that it's inspirational.
Yeah, 100%. How about your favorite hobby? I think I probably know the answer to this, but.
Okay. Well, it's a tie between two. Having changed professions, auto mechanics is still a hobby to me, and I like it better as a hobby.
Okay. Yeah.
That way, I don't have crabby customers that I answer to. It's
Right.
I'm the crabby customer that
You
I
do it
answer
for fun.
to.
Yeah.
Do it for fun, and also I love playing the guitar. I'm a musician to a degree. Varying times in my life, sometimes it's a bigger part than others. Right now, I'm kind of on a little bit of a musical hiatus. This job requires a lot of focus, even when I'm at home, and my family gets that, and it's a little bit of a sacrifice. So the guitar sacrifices a little bit too, but. It's sometimes in your life you pick it up a little bit more, and sometimes you have to put it on the back burner a little bit. But I don't do it for a living, so it's not a problem.
Exactly. It's a hobby.
Right.
Yep. Okay. Nice segue. Your favorite singer or favorite band?
It's Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh my goodness!
I'm a metalhead. I'm a kid of the '80s.
Okay.
And Ozzy had some fantastic guitar players. Randy Rhoads is the first real influence for guitar for me. Maybe him and Robert Plant are a little bit, not Robert Plant, Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page, yeah.
So Ozzy, it's a no-brainer for me.
Okay.
His
All right.
catalog is awesome.
I know. I'm an AC/DC fan.
Sure.
Yeah,
What's
I
not
like
to
them
like?
too. I know. They're great. Metallica. How about your favorite book?
That's kind of tough. Probably Mornings on Horseback. It's a story of Teddy Roosevelt's early life.
Oh, okay. That
Growing
sounds
up,
cool.
Theodore Roosevelt is one of my favorite personalities from history. He's also a former New York City Police Department commissioner. So a lot of times when you look back for wisdom from the past, he's one of my go-tos.
Okay. All right. And your favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Yay. We're in here with lights if you're watching us.
Yeah.
Favorite place to visit?
Port St. Lucie, Florida.
I was going to say, when you were in New York, it was Port St. Lucie.
I'm a homebody, I got here and I never looked back. I've been back to New York 3 times in 22 years. And
Oh, wow. Okay.
Out of necessity, for family things that occurred, and I have no desire to be anywhere else, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm a homebody, and that's it. It's my
Honest
place.
answer. Your favorite dessert?
All right, well, that's the problem for these. I love ice cream.
Okay, we changed this question. It used to be favorite ice cream flavor, but then people were like, well, just say dessert, because some people don't like ice cream. So if you want to answer that.
Well, at this point in life, it's not good for me. I am
Sure.
lactose intolerant, and
So
lactose,
ice cream is a problem.
Yeah, lactose-free ice cream stinks.
Oh, yeah.
So no, I love ice cream, but it's got to be a rare occasional treat. And at this point in life, when you're constantly, fighting to keep the weight off and maintain your body health, you gotta have that very sparingly. But ice cream, I'm also a fan of tiramisu.
The best is from New York, too.
I wasn't gonna say that.
It is.
But you know what? The food has gotten so much better over the years since I've been here. There's been a lot more.
So many different varieties of
a
food
lot
from
more
different
options
countries.
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
How about your favorite TV show?
I don't really have one, to be honest with you. Years ago, I probably would have said NYPD Blue.
Okay.
That was aired long, before I was a cop and, years into my career. And I thought they did a fantastic job capturing the essence of what it was like to be on the job in New York City.
Okay.
A lot of the lingo, a lot of, even down to the numbers on forms were accurate,
Yeah.
So they got a lot of the detail really, really well. I enjoyed that. But after time goes by, you don't really want to watch shows about what you're doing all day at work. You kind of want a little bit of escape. So I kind of got away from TV quite a bit because I had to do a lot of learning through my law enforcement career. When I became an officer, I didn't even have an associate's degree. And, I recognized to become a supervisor in New York, you had to have that. So I started back into my educational journey because I had a new path in life. So my education had to, align
Follow
with
it.
where I was going. So I spent a lot of time over the years getting my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. And, your free time that you do have ends up being spoken for. And
Not on the television, yeah.
Not on TV. And then, I kind of came to see TV as a little bit of the enemy. And then with all the negativity on the news and stuff that's going on, I thought it was noise to tune out. And then when I had free time, I focused on playing the guitar, working on my car.
And stick with movies. You said you're a big movie fan.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the movies are something that my wife and I can enjoy together. She pretty much watches her silly TV shows on her own. And I say silly just because she's watched everything that Netflix has to offer,
Yeah,
I think.
I get it.
So,
All right, we're up to our last question. Your favorite color?
blue.
Okay. That's I think every police officer that we've had in here for the podcast has said blue. I like that.
And it truly is. It's just,
I love blue too.
yeah, just
blue.
draws my eye. It's soothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Well, Chief, thank you again so much for coming in here for a couple minutes and sharing your vision for the department. And we really appreciate it. So thank you.
it.
And we hope you have a very happy holiday and a good new year.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, Chief.